Would you like to know a secret just between you and me? I don't know where I'm going next. I don't know where I'm gonna be. But that's the other side to this life I've been leading. But that's the other side to this life.
Well, I'm still Allan Arkush, and welcome to the last reel. And the reason I'm standing in front of my house with my thumb up is because this reel is called Hitchhiking Through Life. Now, hitchhiking is a powerful metaphor that can be applied to all our experiences, chapters, and adventures. We all have many destinations, but it's the journey, the day-to-day process that is ultimately in the hands of fate, luck, and uncertainty. 1968, a year of turmoil in America. I was 20 years old, had finished my sophomore year at NYU, summer was coming, and I wanted an adventure.
Get some motor running, head out on the highway, looking for adventure, and whatever comes our way.
Inspired by our culture heroes, my best friend Ted Cohn and I had decided to explore America. We were going to hitchhike from Los Angeles to San Francisco and on to Chicago. That's 2,530 miles. Now, that sounds naive and reckless. In fact, I had been busted and put in jail for reckless driving. Ted had been busted for borrowing his father's car and joyriding all night without a license. Adolescent hubris had caused me to be turned down by 5 colleges, but we saw ourselves as rebels, like Heavenly Blues in The Wild Angels.
Well, we want to be free. We want to be free to do what we want to do. We want to be free to ride. And we want to be free to ride our machines without being hassled by the man. And we want to get loaded. And we want to have a good time.
Exactly.
And that's what we're going to do.
Well, when, baby? Let's go.
We're going to have a good time. We're going to have a party.
Our inner Kerouac was calling, and Ken Kesey's electric Kool-Aid hijinks was already legendary.
Kesey assembled an entourage of first-generation acid heads known as the Merry Pranksters.
And Kesey got this bus, and we outfitted it with a recorder and a movie camera, and we were going to take the bus to New York City and back and film and tape the whole thing and be like a movie that had never been made before.
I think the Grateful Dead kind of represents the spirit of being able to go out and have an adventure in America at large, you know what I mean?
I was going to record this whole trip on my 8mm camera. And so it's an 8mm shots on a Bolex from 1968 that were transferred to tape in 1998 and then transferred to DVD recently and put into a computer and blown up as a print. So we're about 5 generations away from that. So reckless youth. Here's the 2 youths, my friend Teddy Cohn and I, and we were very reckless in the summer of '68. I'm jumping ahead to tell this story because we were irresponsible, we were foolhardy, we were audacious, and most of all, it was ill-advised. I got this stuff out of the dictionary. Now, how we talked our parents into letting us hitchhike across the country, I have no idea. I think it was time for us to discover America because we so wanted to be hippies, and there was a hippie dream in San Francisco. But what we didn't realize is that we were a year too late. I go to Wisconsin where he is, and at Wisconsin, he's with his girlfriend, Shelley.
Well, thank you for the days, those endless days, those sacred days you gave me.
And all of a sudden, someone runs in the dorm room and says, Robert Kennedy was shot. And we rush down the hall to a TV set, and sure enough, Robert Kennedy was assassinated that night. And there's lots of stirrings on campus, and this was just one more blow in the face to what was shaping up to be a terrible year in America with, Martin Luther King being killed and so forth. And but we're going to do our plan. We have this drive-away car, which means that we take the car from Madison and we drive it to Los Angeles, go there, and now from Los Angeles, we're going to hitchhike up the coast to San Francisco. Right? The golden city of the West, home of the Grateful Dead, home of the Jefferson Airplane, home of hippies, Haight-Ashbury. So we start hitching, and our first stop along the way, because we're going to take Route 1, is Big Sur. And Ted, always one to have too much fun, brings along some mushrooms. So like every good baby boomer, we take mushrooms in Big Sur, and this is kind of what it looks like. It's a little out of focus and overexposed, kind of like I was, I think. I took off my clothes and sat in the stream for quite a while that day. So we get to San Francisco, and it's not the San Francisco of our dreams. It's an ugly scene. There's a lot of badass and drugs and a lot of people shooting speed and everything, and we don't have anything to do there because it's just awful. So we end up going to the movies a lot, and we go to see this movie called Wild in the Streets.
If you're under 25, you're the majority, and you can run the country.
Well, this is the movie that divides the world into two types of people, those under 25 and those over 25. And I was certainly under 25 when I saw this movie from the balcony of a theater in San Francisco. It was on a double bill with The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and the guy sitting next to me was smoking opium. Shelley Winters is fantastic in this movie. She's a flower child, she's a prisoner of war. I mean, she does it all. This is one of her great delirious performances. So Nothing Can Stop the Shape of Things to Come, which is one of the big theme songs, is still something that's heard on the radio today. This is a real youth culture kind of movie. That's my favorite shot in the whole movie, which is lots and lots of Waller coolers full of LSD, kind of looking like Kool-Aid. Not to mention Shelley's beautiful rendition of My Country 'Tis of Thee. She's trying to escape from a prison camp. Look at her hands on the barbed wire. It's positively biblical. Yep, Max becomes president of the United States, and you have to be over 14 to vote.
Nothing can change the shape of things to come.
It's full of, if you're under 30, you'll want to see it, and true enough, we did. Wild in the Streets, sort of a demented classic of the period, and indeed, the most unusual motion picture you'll ever see.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
Now's the best part of the trip. We're getting ready to hitchhike across the country, and our last night in San Francisco, we go to the Fillmore West, and we see a benefit, because this is the best part. This is what the takeaway is of seeing Big Brother and the Holding Company. Band and a brand new band called the Santana Blues Band. see Santana in a very early incarnation. And time to get out there and hitchhike, and this is kind of what I look like, right? I look like a bird, you know, with this hair and everything. This is before I let it go. Okay. In any case, so we're hitchhiking out of San Francisco, and it goes pretty well. We get as far as Sacramento the first half a day, and then we're stuck. We spend the night underneath this overpass and no rides, and the next morning, we're sticking out our thumbs, nothing and nothing, and all of a sudden this car comes and cuts across 3 lanes and skids to a stop in front of us and honks, and we go running up, and it's full of these hippies, and they invite us in the car, and we look at them, and it's like 3 guys, and so we get in the car with them, and it's me, Shelley, and Ted in the back, and these 3 guys in the front. So the driver seems to be talking kind of weird, you know, and everyone's laughing at the oddest things, and the guy next to him is his father is a nuclear scientist, which he takes no time in telling you, and then starts getting into the relationship he has with his father, which is terrible. And the third guy doesn't speak English. He's a Czechoslovakian foreign exchange student, and he does a lot of gesturing, and we can't understand a word he says. And I look at Ted, and I say, you know, this is a weird vibe in this place. And he says, yeah, I know what you mean. And we start asking him questions. Well, it turns out that the driver is an acid dealer, and he drives from St. Paul to San Francisco once a month, buys a couple $100 worth of acid tabs, and brings it back and sells it, you know, in Minnesota. And to pass the time, he takes some. So all 3 of these guys are on acid, which explains all the laughing and stuff, and the fact that the Czechoslovakian can't make sense out of anything. So the right thing to do would be to choose one of us 3 and make it a designated driver. But again, reckless. Let's get to ill-advised. At best, madcap, and at worst, kamikaze. So we make the kamikaze choice, and we all take acid.
I want to be happy.
I want to be glad. I want to be happy and glad and never again be sad. I never will cry. I never will sigh.
All right. So now, an hour later, in this car heading to South Bend, Indiana, we are really high. And we're laughing and singing along with the radio, and Honky Tonk Women is on the radio, and we're digging all that. And every song is great. And the clouds start moving in the shapes of Mickey Mouse, you know, and everybody's laughing, and we think it's hilarious when we pull into a Dairy Queen because it's painted red. For some reason, we find that amusing, and everyth's going great all afternoon, and as the sun's setting, everything's swell, and then our driver decides to take another half a tab. And the vibe in the whole car changes because I could understand what the Czechoslovakian was saying. That was high on acid, and he could understand me. But this guy becomes so high, our driver, that he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't recognize the car, and he won't let anyone else drive. So while he's driving, we are telling him, ease to the left, ease to the right. Your right foot, you know what that is? Put that on the gas. It is scary, right? And it gets dark. And now cars are whizzing by. We're on a 2-lane road. We're headed through Utah, and this guy has to be told, no, that's not 2 motorcycles, that's a truck. And you're drifting to the left. It's so scary, and he won't stop driving. And we're going on, and now we're in the Bonneville Salt Flats, and there's nothing. It's pitch black all around. And on the radio, we find a college radio station, and they start playing The End by The Doors. This is the end, my only friend, the end. Scary song, spooky song, not a song to make everyone feel happy at that hour. And it gets to be too much in the car, and now we're screaming, pull over, pull over, pull, and he finally pulls over and pulls on the side into like a dirt area, and we all burst out of the car, and we're free, and we look up. Stars in the Bonneville Salt Flats with no light around. There's no cars, there's nothing. It's incredible. And so we all wander away and lie down together right next to each other, like almost holding hands and looking up at the sky, and it's moving and all this stuff. And we start feeling the earth. right? Because the earth has an energy, you know, and we can feel this energy. It's a rumble. And it's like we're feeling all the power of the earth, and this rumble starts getting louder and louder. And we look out across the desert where there's nothing, and there's something coming at us, which has a light, you know, like an alien spaceship or something. And it gets closer and closer, and the rumble gets louder and louder, and it goes by us about 1,000 miles an hour, and it turns out to be a train. And we are lying 3 feet from the train tracks. Another 3 feet one side. We're so high we would have been run over and killed. And, you know, of course, the acid dealer said, did that really happen? You know? So now it's all about, shut the fuck up, let's just get out of here. So he's driving at dawn, we're wiped out, and, you know, we wake up at the side of the road, you know, just feeling hungover by what's gone on in the country. And, you know, all my dreams are kind of shattered, you know, and things are not good. Feeling inside, and, you know, so we get to South Bend and we get out, and Ted and Shelley get a ride. They can only take 2. So I'm all by myself in South Bend, Indiana. And car pulls over and picks me up, and it's a young guy, and it's a convertible, and the whole back of the car is full of 8-tracks. Anyone know what an 8-track is? It's a kind of thing they used to play in cars back in the day. It was a format that never went anywhere, but it would endlessly repeat. And this is all bootleg 8-tracks, but it's only one record, the soundtrack to The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. So this guy has no other music in the car but this. And all the way into Chicago, I have to hear this soundtrack over and over and over again. And he lets me out in Chicago, and as soon as I'm there, it turns evil. Because Chicago was on the verge of becoming the place where the riots took place, where the police rioted during the Chicago Convention and beat all the protesters who were against the war in Vietnam. And that whole mood permeates everything. And people are driving by me and trying to, you know, I'm hitchhiking and pushing me off the road. They're calling me a hippie shithead. And, you know, I found the real America, and it's not nice.
Let's take a moment of reflection. That trip was almost 60 years ago, and 50 years after that, I wrote and shot my monologue about it. But now I'm 78, and with this last reel, I now see what an inflection point it was. From my teenage romanticized idealism to becoming a nascent filmmaker in his 20s. I was now back home in the East Village, working 2 jobs. During the day, I worked at the legendary FAO Shore's toy store taking inventory, and at night, I started as an usher at the Fillmore East. My junior year at NYU brought serious readings in film history, like the Saris book over here, constant movie watching, and of course, my production classes, where I made my first 10-minute film. There's enough 1969 material for 2 reels. I wasn't a hitchhiker anymore. I was driving the car. Until
about 2002, I was working on Crossing Jordan over at Universal. And I'm in my office, and my assistant says, there's a phone call for you. And I said, okay. So I pick up the phone. Who is this? And this guy says, is this Allan Arkush? I said, yes. He goes, okay. Is this the same Allan Arkush who was hitchhiking and got picked up in a car somewhere around Sacramento back in 1968? I said, yes. And he says, and you had 2 friends with you? I said, yes. Who are you? He says, okay. In the car, there was a guy selling acid that was the driver? I said, yeah. And there's a guy whose father was a nuclear scientist and kept talking about his, I said, yes. And there was a guy who couldn't speak English, who's Czechoslovakian. I said, yeah. And he says, that's me. I'm the Czechoslovakian. And I said, your English has gotten a lot better. And he works at Universal on the lot as an editor. And he was driving past my parking place, and he saw my name on the curb, and he took a chance and he called me. How about that, you know? So we go out and we have lunch together. What are the odds? 1 trillion to 1? Time and space. How about that? And you can't top that.
Well, my whole world's in an uproar.
Thanks for the ride. That makes a dozen last reels. And there's always a place on the couch for you for the next one.
But I'm always bumming round. And that's another side to this life I've been leading. And that's another side to this life